Going on, guys? Got the engine finally showed up. I think this thing came from China because it took like over a week before I started getting tracking information, and it was at California whenever I started getting the tracking information after a week. So this right here doesn't look good. We got a crankshaft sticking out the side of the box, so hopefully there isn't any damage on the inside. I think I'm gonna, it's sitting in the back of the car right now. I think I'm gonna actually take it out of the box in the back of the car because I think it'd be easier to move it, not in the box. But we'll go ahead and start opening this up. So you can see here, it actually is in two boxes, and yeah, a lot of foam in there. Probably isn't any damage to it, but hopefully, sorry about the wind. It's kind of neat, kind of looks like a funnel. And well, I don't know. Might have been easier to get it out on the ground and get this box cut open. Alright, so I finally got it out of the box. And, well, of course we got the funnel, showed that already, but it came with some tools. And it's like, probably take the spark plug out. And this probably doubles back as a Phillips or something. A 10 and an 8 wrench. And of course the directions. You can see it's an overhead valve, and has pull start, and it has electric start. I mentioned in another video about talking about buying this engine, and that it couldn't charge its own battery. It can. It has a stator in it, but it's probably only like 100 watt or something like that. I'm going to put an alternator on this, and so it can charge its own battery, but it's going to be only going to be for the sake of charging up a battery to start it up. Probably not running lights and stuff. You see, we got like two oil dipsticks. I'm assuming that they're both dipsticks. And of course, we got a notice on here telling us that it's a dipstick, telling us that there's no oil in it. Oh, nope, that was just a plug. I suppose maybe if you're going to use one or the other, you could just take the the dipstick and stick it in the other one and the plug in the other side. I don't know what your situation was. But my plan is I'm actually going to remove this gas tank and this muffler, and I'll make a new exhaust system and relocate that gas tank so this thing can fit in the the bottom of the UTV and not have to have anything sticking up above the seat grade. This is a 420 cc. And I think it's, how many horsepower did it say it was? Yeah, 16 horse. Harbor Freight's, this thing was $300 delivered to the house on eBay. And Harbor Freight wants $360 for theirs, and I'd have to drive a 40-some mile round trip to go there, sales tax and all that. And then their coupon, like the 20% coupon, does not work on their engines. So it's either you have a coupon for the engine, or you pay the full price. And I'd like to mention, I think Harbor Freight's is 11 or 12 horse. It's the same engine, but Harbor Freight engines are lower on horsepower because they're made to pass California emissions, so they have lower compression. It's kind of like how American companies, automotive industry in the early days was actually making their engines with lower horsepower to pass emissions. You can see here there's no like EGR thing sticking off here like you would on the Harbor Freight engine. So, alright, I got some stuff to show you on centrifugal clutch and a way to dry the alternator. Alright, so you remember in the first video that nasty looking alternator? There it is, all cleaned up. I completely tore this thing apart and cleaned it up. You couldn't even see the windings in it, it was so covered in crap. And then resoldered the windings to the voltage regulator on the back, and I actually put silver paint on this case. Try to give it a nice finished touch. And then how I plan on driving the alternator. This was a harmonic balancer, and it had a stub stick off on it, probably about as far as what this centrifugal clutch is. And I turned it all off and made it so it was a press fit to the very back of the centrifugal clutch. And then I didn't want to depend on the fact that this is pressed on there. After a while it probably, you know, work its way loose. This is cast, that's hardened steel. So I came up with, I had extra space on the shaft so that I can get something behind this. And then this centrifugal clutch, when you put it on, it's dependent on the fact that it's going to have something behind it to take up the space, and then when you put the nut and the washer on the end, it kind of sandwiches everything together. There's no set keys or anything like that. So the extra space, you know, I made the spacer, and then I actually notched this out so it had like a key slot between this piece and this piece, and then used roll pins to make, you know, a key. So, you know, the centrifugal clutch runs on this one, and the pulley's gonna run on this one. The whole thing gets sandwiched together. Or you put it on the engine, put a washer on the end of it and a nut, and it's sandwiched together. So the only thing this pulley's driving is the alternator, and it's always in one direction, so I don't think it's going to have any trouble. But I'll put it on the engine real quick. Alright, so you can see that, you know, the alternator's pulley is locked. You know, I'm turning the engine over right now. This is the centrifugal clutch. So you start it up, alternator's always turning as long as the engine's turning, and then this is just be sitting still till you give it gas, and then the clutch will lock up and start driving it. I had a comment about centrifugal clutches, you know, they don't last very long. I had a mini bike, or I had a go-kart, and they didn't last very long on there. I'm gonna have a transmission, you know, the transmission sitting up there. And this thing's going to have like a 60 to 80 to 1 ratio by the time it gets to the wheels. So, given that I have a low ratio to take off, this thing is only going to have to slip just a little bit till the unit starts moving, and then it's not slipping anymore. When you have a go-kart or a mini bike, you want to be able to go fast. So it has to be able to slip and slip and slip and slip and slip and slip till the thing's moving to its full speed, or at least locked to the speed of the engine. So, you know, this is probably going to last quite a while. It will wear out, but it'll last quite a while because of the gear ratios. I didn't put this piece on the back because I actually got two. I made it actually too long on purpose because I didn't have the engine yet. So I got to measure the length of the shaft and how much, you know, I need to take off the back of it. But I think that's all I got for now. Oh, I'd like to mention too, given it the direction of the engine turns, you know, this way. So does the alternator. So the alternator has to be facing this direction towards the engine. The alternators can turn both directions, but the cooling fins that's inside of them is not made to, you know, push air through it going backwards. So I'll have to figure out a way to get this thing, you know, so that it's mounted up and facing the engine. Got the front system, you know, well, not suspension, but the front end mocked up. So I figure we'll go back to the back, start working on it. And you know, I had these angle iron pieces in here with the figures of putting pellet block bearings on the bottom, and then I was kind of looking to have to slice this out right here to move this over to have room for to get the sprocket in there. And I just don't like this. It just looks flimsy, and it's just too much work. So what I'm figuring on doing is going down to my Roll King and get me some box tubing, and I'm going to run a piece of box tubing on both sides right along this edge, and I'll cut it to an angle to weld it up to here, run it back, and actually have it so it kind of runs right into here, and then that'll give it a wider stance for the bearings and be easier on the axle. I do that on both sides, and then we'll just go with that for now. You can kind of see here, up there's that edge. Bring it back, bring it in this way, weld it up to here. Alright, bought a piece of, I don't know, is it like 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing. Bought that off a place I work at, and bought 2 pieces in the side of this frame. This is where the pellet block bearings will bolt up to the bottom, and I think I'm just going to do straight holes through, bolt up, and then I'll make some kind of chain tensioner off the tranny. And kind of debating on like either putting a gusset from here to here, or maybe put a tube welded to here at an angle to the back side of the frame, something like that, kind of straight. This thing has kind of a little bit of a flex to it. You just have a jack stand on each end, kind of flexes, and it's more, you see the flexing in this back part. I did have, it cut out in the bottom, so that was adding to the flex, but I think if I ran something from here to the back. Got both sides done. Right now it's just welded on the tops. I'll probably, when I tear this thing back apart, I'll probably just roll this thing around in here and weld. I really don't like welding vertically or upside down unless I have to. I mean, I can. You can see here, this weld right here is vertical, and it turned out okay. Looks great. But other things I got done. I was out here yesterday, or no, day before yesterday, and forgot to bring the camera, so not a whole lot done. I mean, that was a lot of work, cutting those angles and all that. I welded a piece of angle in here, welded it top of this frame, and I welded in this motor mount or transmission mount here. So the transmission right now is bolted in 2 places, the bottom and top there. I need to do something in the front. Still got to do something there. And I took the gas tank and the muffler off this engine, and you can see, it fits below the seats. And what's kind of neat about it is, right now it's sitting on this plate that's kind of recessed down in, and it completely misses the 2 cross members. This one, and you see a triangle one right there, completely misses those. So I'm thinking I'll just have to make a plate with the bolt pattern of the motor in it, and once I move it around where I need it, I can just weld, tack that plate, unbolt the motor, and then weld the plate to this plate, and that'll probably be plenty enough to hold that motor down. Some other things you kind of see here. It's not lined up where it needs to be, but you can kind of see how this is going to work out. This motor does come out in front of the, into the floor area a little bit, but I'm thinking I'll just build some kind of dog box to go around it. I'm actually kind of thinking about mounting that alternator in front of the engine here, and it'll just be inside of that dog box as well. and it'll just turn backwards. I mean, my only other option to mount that alternator in is kind of like right here, facing, you know, the pulley facing this way. And I just don't know. Maybe after I put the drive sprocket chain on, kind of get an idea of what it's doing, I might be able to see if I can get it above here. But you know, it's going to end up being directly below the seat, which would kind of suck. I don't know. Putting it in front of the engine right there would be a perfect place for it, but like I said, it's going to be turning backwards. I can't complain at all. I mean, this project is just sliding together like it's just amazing how this is going together so easy. But next, I think I'm going to we're going to mount for that, or might make a mount for this. Basically, this needs mounted to that. Alright, kind of put another piece of angle iron in here. You can see there's one here and one here. And try to, you know, that frame came up and had them box shapes there. It's going to be under the seat and under the bed, but oh well. Thought I'd make it look a little bit better, and maybe it might make it a little bit stronger. And I got a mount holding this end of the steering column up so that it kind of stiffens it up. It's kind of hard to show you on camera, but you know, it was just bolted here. Kind of had like a little bit of a flex going. And I think, you know, once again, it's just welded on one side, and I'll probably actually, you know, when I tear this thing all apart, I'll weld everything up real nice. But I'm going to show you guys. I have another idea for a roof for this thing, and I think I'm going to use the hood off that Saturn. I have to measure in it, and it's like perfect. And you see here, it kind of, you know, it kind of cuts over the side. You know, this hood didn't like sit in between the fenders. It kind of covers them. So you know, this would be, you know, the side of the roof. It's almost perfect dimensions. I think I make a nice roof. But I think I'm gonna cut it off today on this, and you know, catch you guys later.